Hollywood once worshipped beauty like cold currency. But what happens when those golden faces begin to crack slowly, suddenly, or under the constant glare of cameras? It's not just age. It's illness that takes away the shine, accidents that shatter perfection. Addictions that fill or empty, surgeries gone wrong, and breakdowns that dim the fire in their eyes. Goddesses. The fall. Enter the dark corridors of Hollywood, where beauty is bought and then abandoned. Linda Darnell, the girl with the perfect face burned by fate. In the 1940s, Linda Darnell was every director's dream, with flawless skin, striking eyes, and a face so symmetrical that studio boss Darryl Zanuck forbade makeup artists from touching it. She was hailed as the girl with the perfect face. Films like Forever Amber and A Letter to Three Wives cemented her as one of Hollywood's most photogenic stars. But beauty doesn't guarantee security, and as she aged, roles slipped away. By the early 1960s, she was struggling financially, emotionally, and professionally, turning to alcohol and small television parts to stay afloat. Then came the night that sealed her fate. In April 1965, Linda was visiting a friend in Illinois when a fire broke out in the house. Trapped upstairs, she managed to save a child, but flames engulfed her. By the time firefighters pulled her out, her once celebrated face and body were covered in third-degree burns. She died the next day at just 41. The irony was cruel beyond words. A woman whose beauty had been described as perfection was disfigured in her final moments. Hollywood's cameras preserved her as eternal glamour, but behind the celluloid image was a tragic ending that no one could have scripted. Susan Peters, Hollywood's brightest hope, broken by a single shot. In the early 1940s, Susan Peters was on the verge of stardom. With delicate features, natural elegance, and an Oscar nomination for Random Harvest MGM, envisioned her as their next great leading lady. She had everything: talent, poise, and a beauty that glowed on screen. But in 1945, one split-second accident changed everything. On a hunting trip, a rifle misfired and the bullet severed her spinal cord. At just 23, Susan was paralyzed from the waist down. Hollywood didn't know what to do with her. Once radiant and full of life, she now appeared gaunt. Her skin pale from endless hospital stays, her expression tightened by constant pain. Determined, she tried to continue acting, starring in The Sign of the Ram 1948. But audiences were stunned by how much she had changed. The joy, the sparkle, the effortless beauty, it all seemed dimmed by tragedy. As her health declined further, so did her spirit. Depression and anorexia took their toll, leaving her a shadow of the star she had once been. By 1952, at only 31 years old, Susan Peters was gone, her body ravaged by malnutrition and kidney complications. Judy Garland, the star Hollywood broke. She was supposed to be eternal. Judy Garland, Hollywood's Little Dorothy, the girl who followed the yellow brick road, became one of the most beloved stars in movie history. But behind the dazzling voice and innocent smile was a brutal truth. From the very beginning, the studio system was dismantling her. MGM executives decided she wasn't beautiful enough, not thin enough, not glamorous enough. At just 13, she was thrown into a nightmare regimen of cigarettes, black coffee, appetite-suppressing pills by day, and sleeping pills by night. What began as shaping a star soon became a lifelong addiction that carved years off her face and body. By her mid-20s, the once radiant girl looked decades older. Her weight yo-yoed, her skin sagged, her eyes lost their youthful spark. Desperate for approval, Garland was forced to perform while her health collapsed, each comeback a little more heartbreaking than the last. Photographers captured not a glamorous icon, but a woman exhausted, trembling, and fraying at the edges. On June 22, 1969, officially it was an accidental overdose. But in truth, Hollywood had killed her long before. Barbara Payton. From Hollywood's darling to Skid Row, she was once hailed as the next big thing, a blonde bombshell ready to rival Marilyn Monroe. Barbara Payton had it all: platinum hair, a sultry smile, a body made for the silver screen. In the early 1950s, she was starring alongside James Cagney and Gregory Peck. Hollywood at her feet. But beauty in Tinseltown is fragile, and Barbara's fall was as fast as it was brutal. Her scandalous love triangle with actors Franchot Tone and Tom Neal became front-page fodder after it exploded into violence, leaving Tone in the hospital and Payton branded damaged goods. From that moment, her career nosedived. Roles dried up, her name was whispered with contempt, and Barbara turned to alcohol for comfort. The once luminous starlet was soon arrested for drunkenness and prostitution, her mugshots a shocking contrast to the goddess she once was. By her late 30s, Barbara was unrecognizable. Her face bloated, her eyes vacant, her beauty erased by addiction and poverty. In 1963, she released a raw memoir, I Am Not Ashamed, but the book only cemented her downfall. 4 years later, at just 39, Barbara Payton was dead from liver and heart failure, penniless and forgotten. Gloria Graham, the lip that ruined a legend. Gloria Graham was Hollywood's ultimate noir siren. With her husky voice, bedroom eyes, and that unforgettable pout, she lit up films like The Bad and the Beautiful and The Big Heat. She won an Oscar, stole scenes with a single glance, and seemed untouchable. But for Gloria, perfection was never enough. Obsessed with her upper lip, which she thought too thin, she began experimenting with injections, paraffin wax, the Hollywood fad of the late 40s. At first, it gave her the fuller look she craved, but soon the wax hardened, leaving lumps and distortions under her skin. Directors struggled to light her face close-ups, revealed uneven lines, and whispers began spreading that the camera no longer loved her. Desperate to fix the damage, Gloria underwent more procedures, each one carving away at the natural beauty that had made her a star. By the 1960s, her once magnetic presence had dimmed. She retreated to stage work and small TV roles, but the scars, both physical and emotional, were impossible to hide. Paparazzi photos showed a woman clinging to her glamour, but the Hollywood goddess was gone. Gloria Graham died in 1981 at just 57, her later images rarely printed in obituaries. Frances Farmer, Hollywood's rebel who was broken by the system. Frances Farmer had a beauty unlike anyone else in 1930s Hollywood. Sharp jawline, intelligent eyes, and a natural allure that gave her screen presence a raw, authentic power. She dazzled in films like Come and Get It, and was hailed as one of the brightest young stars of her generation. But Frances wasn't interested in playing the studio's game. She rejected publicity stunts, challenged authority, and refused to be molded into a Hollywood puppet. That defiance came at a brutal cost. By the early 1940s, her rebellious spirit was branded as difficult. After a series of public incidents, she was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and committed to psychiatric institutions. What followed was nothing short of torture. She endured insulin shock therapy, brutal electroconvulsive treatments, and even rumors of a lobotomy. The vibrant, sharp-eyed woman Hollywood once adored was hollowed out. Her expressions dulled, her face prematurely aged, her movements mechanical. When Frances re-emerged in the 1950s, she tried to stage a comeback, but the spark was gone. Critics noted the absence of vitality, the haunting emptiness where once there had been fire. She lived the rest of her life in obscurity, dying in 1970 at just 56. Veronica Lake, the peekaboo star who vanished into shadows. In the 1940s, Veronica Lake was pure magic. With her silky blonde hair falling over one eye in that iconic peekaboo style, she became the ultimate femme fatale. Audiences adored her in films like This Gun for Hire and The Blue Dahlia. She wasn't just beautiful, she was unforgettable, a face that defined wartime glamour. But Hollywood can turn adoration into ashes overnight. By the early 1950s, Veronica's career unraveled. Studios labeled her difficult, though much of it was rooted in untreated mental illness and a growing dependence on alcohol. The once radiant starlet grew unreliable on set, and soon Paramount dropped her contract. With the roles gone, her appearance began to change. Her skin lost its glow, her figure became bloated, and the glossy waves of her hair turned lifeless. The cruelest blow came in 1962, when a newspaper exposed her working as a cocktail waitress in Manhattan. Patrons barely recognized her. The glamorous siren of the silver screen had become a weary woman worn down by hardship. She admitted, "What you're looking at now is the real person." Attempts at comebacks failed, and she drifted further into obscurity. In 1973, Veronica Lake died of hepatitis and kidney failure at just 50 years old, with only $400 to her name. Lupe Velez, the Mexican Spitfire's final performance. In the 1920s and 30s, Lupe Velez blazed across Hollywood like wildfire. Nicknamed the Mexican Spitfire, she was a force of nature, fiery, funny, magnetic. With flashing eyes, sensual lips, and a body that radiated energy, she lit up films like The Gaucho and the wildly popular Mexican Spitfire series. Off-screen, she was just as explosive, her stormy romances with Gary Cooper and Johnny Weissmuller, making headlines as often as her movies. But Hollywood's appetite for her brand of passion eventually soured. By the 1940s, her thick accent limited her roles in the sound era, and her career dwindled. Behind the glamour, Lupe struggled with depression and emotional turmoil. In 1944, pregnant and facing the shame of single motherhood in conservative Hollywood, she made a devastating choice. Lupe staged her death like a scene from a film, her bedroom adorned with flowers, candles, and incense. Dressed in silk pajamas, her hair and makeup immaculate. But Hollywood couldn't even grant her that. Gossip columnists spread a vile rumor that she died in a toilet, a grotesque lie that eclipsed the truth. Her carefully constructed final act was mocked, and her legacy reduced to scandal. Dolores Hart, the girl who kissed Elvis and chose God. In 1957, Dolores Hart electrified audiences as the fresh-faced beauty who locked lips with Elvis Presley in Loving You. With her striking blue eyes, porcelain skin, and wholesome charm, she was instantly branded Hollywood's next big thing. More roles followed, and the press crowned her the girl who kissed the king. At just 24, Dolores had the kind of career most actresses only dreamed of. But then at the height of her fame, she shocked the world by walking away. In 1963, instead of chasing stardom, Dolores chose silence, prayer, and a simple black habit. She entered the Abbey of Regina Laudis in Connecticut, leaving behind glittering gowns for a nun's veil, and Hollywood gasped. How could a woman with her beauty, her promise, abandon it all? To Dolores, the answer was simple. The endless fight to maintain glamour was an illusion, one that drained the soul. Over the years, her transformation became even more striking. Gone was the ingenue with Hollywood's glow. In her place stood Mother Dolores, serene, grounded, her beauty redefined by faith and inner peace. Unlike her peers, she wasn't destroyed by scandal, addiction, or tragedy. She chose her own path, and in doing so, preserved a different kind of radiance. Mae Murray, the girl with the bee-stung lips who lost it all. In the roaring 1920s, Mae Murray was Hollywood royalty. With platinum curls, dramatic gowns, and her trademark bee-stung lips, she embodied jazz-age glamour. Nicknamed the girl with the bee-stung lips, she dazzled audiences in films like The Merry Widow and became one of MGM's highest-paid stars. Men adored her. Women copied her style. Mae Murray was larger than life. But Hollywood is merciless. A bitter feud with studio boss Louis B. Mayer led her to walk away from MGM at the height of her fame. It was a decision she would never recover from. Her finances crumbled, her marriage to a European prince collapsed, and the roles disappeared. As the decades passed, Mae clung desperately to her image of grandeur, still strutting down Hollywood Boulevard, in out-of-date gowns, powdered face, and exaggerated lipstick, as if time had stood still. By the 1950s, the illusion shattered. Once worshipped for her beauty, she was spotted sleeping on park benches, disoriented, telling strangers she was still a star. In 1964, she was found wandering the streets of St. Louis, penniless and forgotten. A year later, she died in obscurity. Marie Prevost, the flapper who died alone. In the 1920s, Marie Prevost was the very picture of jazz-age beauty. With her heart-shaped face, mischievous smile, and petite, curvy figure, she became the ultimate flapper star. She lit up silent comedies and dazzled in sophisticated roles like The Marriage Circle, earning a reputation as both funny and irresistibly charming. For a while, Hollywood couldn't get enough of her. But behind the glamour was heartbreak. In 1926, Marie's mother died tragically in a car accident, sending the actress into a spiral of grief. To cope, she turned to alcohol, and the effects quickly showed. Her once radiant complexion dulled, her figure fluctuated wildly, and in an industry obsessed with perfection, the studios turned their backs. By the early 1930s, she was struggling to land roles, forced into bit parts, while she battled depression and drink. The decline was swift and brutal. By 1937, Marie was living alone in a small Los Angeles apartment, her beauty and fame long gone. That year, she was found dead at just 38 years old. The cause, acute alcoholism and malnutrition. But the tabloids weren't content with the truth. They spread grotesque rumors about her death, reducing a once-celebrated star to a cruel punchline. Grace Kelly, the princess who died before the mirror could break. Grace Kelly was the definition of regal beauty, golden hair, porcelain skin, and bone structure so flawless it seemed sculpted by royalty itself. On screen, in Rear Window, To Catch a Thief, and High Society, she embodied sophistication with a cool, untouchable grace. Off-screen, she lived the fairy tale every starlet dreamed of, leaving Hollywood behind to marry Prince Rainier of Monaco and becoming a real-life princess. Grace Kelly's beauty was not just admired, it was mythologized. But fairy tales have cruel endings. On September 13, 1982, Grace suffered a stroke while driving with her daughter Stephanie. She lost control of the car, which careened down a mountainside in Monaco. The crash left her with devastating injuries. Doctors revealed that had she survived, reconstructive surgery would have been necessary to repair her shattered face, the same face the world had worshipped. Grace died the next day at just 52. In a twist almost too poetic, her beauty remained untouched in public memory. Her family made sure no images of her broken body were released, freezing her forever in perfection. Rita Hayworth, the love goddess who forgot herself. Rita Hayworth wasn't just a star, she was fantasy itself. With her auburn hair, smoldering smile, and that unforgettable striptease in Gilda, She became Hollywood's ultimate pinup, the so-called love goddess of the 1940s. Men adored her, women envied her, and the camera worshipped her. But the woman behind the legend-born Margarita Cancino had been reshaped from the start. Her hairline painfully raised, her appearance altered to look more American. Hollywood made her a goddess, but gods aren't allowed to be human. Her personal life was turbulent: 5 failed marriages, including to Orson Welles and Prince Ali Khan. By the 1960s, whispers began that Rita was difficult, forgetting lines, stumbling through scenes. What no one realized was that she was among the first celebrities suffering from Alzheimer's disease. Her graceful posture slumped. Her radiant smile dimmed, her movements grew clumsy. By the 1970s, Rita could no longer recognize her own films, her own face, her own fame. Her daughter Yasmin Aga Khan became her caretaker and later a crusader for Alzheimer's awareness. When Rita Hayworth died in 1987 at 68, she was a ghost of the goddess she had once been, still beautiful, but trapped in a fog where even her reflection was a stranger. Hedy Lamarr, the most beautiful woman who couldn't escape her reflection. In the 1940s, Hedy Lamarr was hailed as the most beautiful woman in the world. With flawless symmetry, alabaster skin, and hypnotic dark eyes, she seemed almost unreal, a living statue brought to life in films like Samson and Delilah and Ecstasy. But Hedy was more than a face. She was a genius, co-inventing frequency-hopping technology that would one day make Wi-Fi and Bluetooth possible. Hollywood, however, only cared about her beauty. And beauty in Tinseltown is a ticking clock. As she aged, Hedy grew terrified of losing the perfection that had defined her. In the 1960s, she turned to experimental cosmetic procedures long before they were safe or reliable. Collagen fillers, even liquid silicone, were injected into her face. The results were catastrophic. The symmetry that once made her divine was destroyed. Her cheeks hardened. Her lips distorted, her expressions stiff and unnatural. Humiliated, Hedy withdrew from the spotlight. In later years, she became infamous for shoplifting arrests, a surreal fall for a woman who had once been Hollywood's crown jewel. She spent her final decades in seclusion, refusing interviews, speaking only by phone to those who sought her out. When Hedy Lamarr died in 2000 at 85, the world remembered her beauty, but too late, it also recognized her brilliance. Patricia Neal, the woman who refused to stay broken. Patricia Neal wasn't Hollywood's typical beauty. Her allure came from a deeper place: earthy sensuality, piercing eyes, and a voice that could cut like steel or caress like velvet. She lit up the screen in The Day the Earth Stood Still, A Face in the Crowd, and won an Oscar for HUD. Critics called her presence magnetic, a woman who could say more in silence than others could in a page of dialogue. But fate nearly silenced her forever. In 1965, at just 39 and pregnant with her 5th child, Patricia suffered 3 massive strokes. She slipped into a 3-week coma, and when she woke, her body was shattered. Paralysis down her right side, slurred speech, and a face twisted by drooping muscles. Doctors doubted she'd ever walk or talk again, let alone act. But Patricia Neal was no ordinary woman. With grueling rehabilitation driven in part by her husband, writer Roald Dahl, she clawed her way back. Her beauty was changed, her face asymmetrical, but her spirit blazed brighter than ever. In 1968, she shocked Hollywood by returning to the screen in The Subject Was Roses, earning yet another Oscar nomination. Patricia Neal turned tragedy into testimony. She embraced her scars, her altered appearance, and used them as proof of survival. Until her death in 2010 at 84, she stood as a symbol that true beauty isn't about symmetry, it's about resilience. She didn't just survive Hollywood's cruelty, she transcended it. Dorothy Dandridge, the beauty Hollywood refused to save. Dorothy Dandridge was more than beautiful. She was historic, with flawless skin, delicate features, and eyes that carried both fire and vulnerability. She shattered barriers as the first African-American woman nominated for a Best Actress Oscar for Carmen Jones. 1954. Film historians called her face perfection itself, a beauty that transcended race. For a moment, it seemed she would change Hollywood forever. But the dream curdled into tragedy. In a segregated industry, Dorothy found herself trapped between token roles and outright rejection. The pressure was crushing. Stress carved itself into her face, dark circles under her eyes. Tension lines etched deep, her once bright smile fading. Meanwhile, her personal life unraveled. 2 failed marriages, financial ruin at the hands of her second husband, and the heartbreak of caring for a daughter with severe brain damage left her spirit and her beauty battered. By the early 1960s, Dorothy was turning to alcohol for comfort. Photographs show the subtle puffiness, a vacant gaze, the aura of a woman aged far beyond her years. In 1965, bankrupt and living in a modest apartment, she was found dead from an overdose at just 42. Vivien Leigh, the goddess with violet eyes who faded in shadows. Vivien Leigh seemed carved from another world. With porcelain skin, delicate features, and those rare violet eyes, she mesmerized audiences as Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind and Blanche DuBois in A Streetcar